Welcome to the premiere of this Psalm Library release, Psalm 1, That Man, written by Kip Fox, Ben Lange, and Chad Bird. The Psalm Library is one of the many initiatives of the Center for Worship Leadership, where we equip and encourage songwriters and leaders of worship with gospel-rooted resources and experiences from the Lutheran theological tradition. The Psalm Library pairs theologians and songwriters to resource the singing of psalms in worship, which connects us to the tradition of the ancient church, but even more importantly, to Christ. Enjoy this presentation of the theology of Psalm 1, followed by the release of the new song, That Man. On behalf of the Center for Worship Leadership at Concordia University, Irvine, thank you for joining us.
So let's start with the theology. Chad, when we decided on Psalm 1, and I came to you and asked you to give me everything you had on Psalm 1, can you break down for me your approach and your work and really what Psalm 1 is about?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So one of the first things I think that I pointed out is that, well, Psalm 1, of course, as the first psalm, it's the gateway. It's a gateway to the entire Psalter. And as you would expect, a gateway is going to provide not just an entrance, but also kind of a guide to what you could expect in the rest of the Psalms. So there's a number of features in Psalm 1 that are going to pop up in the rest of the Psalms. And one of the things I love about Psalm 1 is the way that it opens. And that is going to provide what I would understand to be the key to the entire book of Psalms. So it's usually translated as blessed is the man. There are some translations which will render it blessed is the person or something like that. I like blessed is the man because the Hebrew is ashrei ha'ish. So in Hebrew, if you're just referring to kind of a generic person, you wouldn't use ish because ish is the word for a male, for a man. And since the earliest days of the church, when that opening of Psalm 1 was understood, it was understood not to be just kind of in reference to a generic person or even to a generic Israelite, but in reference to actually to the person, to the man, Jesus Christ, who is the key of David. So that's kind of the way we began this discussion about what exactly the implications of Psalm 1 are. So right away, I mean, the opening words are directing you toward the one that not just Psalm 1 is about, but really the one that all of the Psalms, in one way or another, are going to be focused on, and that is the Messiah. So that's one of the first things to bear in mind. And that, of course, was crucial for the way that the song developed, this understanding that the Ish, the man who is blessed, is not just every man, but it's specifically the Son of God, the Messiah. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that those who are in the Messiah are not also blessed. Of course we are. But we're focusing specifically in on that man, Jesus Christ, as the blessed one. And then we'll see as the psalm develops what characterizes him. Another thing to kind of keep in mind is that a lot of the psalms are structured so as to connect with the psalms around them. In fact, there's a lot of scholarly literature which, at least probably the last few decades, has begun to look at the structure of the Psalter. So it wasn't just like, at some point in time, somebody took the 150 Psalms like a deck of cards and just kind of shuffled them. And, look, well, let's put this one here, we'll put that one there. No, there's a very carefully organized lexical as well as thematic cohesion to the systematic way in which the Psalms were put together. A lot of people know that, for instance, the Psalter is divided into 5 different books. Okay, well, that's fine. But within those books, you also have things that join certain groups of psalms together. Now, Psalm 1 and Psalm 2, almost in all the scholarly literature, are understood to be a unit. So even though they're 2 psalms, you can't, they're 2 halves of really this same psalmic unit, we might call it. And that is obvious from a number of features. First of all, you have an overlap of language. So I mentioned that Psalm 1 begins, Ashrei Ha'ish. Ashrei in Hebrew is blessed. And that's the same word that occurs at the end of Psalm 2. So Psalm 1 begins with Ashrei, blessed is the man. Psalm 2 ends with Ashrei, blessed are those who take refuge in him. So there's a singular focus about this blessed man at the beginning of Psalm 1, and there's a more of a corporate focus at the end of Psalm 2. So blessed are all of these people who take refuge in this one man. Also, there's overlap between this language about meditating. So blessed is the man who doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked or stand in the path of sinners or sit in the seat of scoffers. So he doesn't do those things, but what does he do? Well, he meditates in the Torah. Now, the Hebrew word for meditate is hagah. And it kind of denotes this almost a murmuring at times. So it's just like the word of God is in your mouth, and it's spilling forth as you meditate upon it. You're murmuring, you're meditating upon these words. That same word, translated in most versions as meditate, is also repeated at the beginning of Psalm 2, but it's used in a different sort of way there. It's where the nations who are opposed to the Lord, they plot in vain. So plot is the same Hebrew verb. It's translated meditate in Psalm 1, plot in Psalm 2. Both are Haggah. So the nations they're meditating, but they're meditating in a vain, empty sort of way. They're meditating upon how they can rebel against God, whereas the Son of God is meditating upon his Father's word. So those are some of the connections between the two. There's one more that I think is especially crucial, and that is that when this man is talked about in Psalm 1, then he reappears in Psalm 2, but we learned a lot more about him. We learned what he does and doesn't do in Psalm 1, but we learn more about actually who he is in Psalm 2. He is the king, and he is the Son of God. Today I have begotten you, Psalm 2 says. And then he is also the Mashiach, which in Hebrew is Messiah. He is anointed of God. So you put Psalm 1 and 2 together, and you look at both of them, and you're like, oh, okay, I see that this blessed man of Psalm 1, who avoids all these wicked things and meditates upon the Father's word, and who's this fruitful tree, unlike the kind of the chaff of the wicked, he is also the king. He is the anointed of God, and he is the son of the Father. So all of them, of course, that's such richness to understand that right away. The first thing we hit here is the blessed man, and that Christological, that Christ-centered nature of Psalm 1 kind of gives us the map whereby we can navigate our way through the rest of the book of Psalms and see how Jesus is, in one way or another, a variety of different ways, is going to be woven into the fabric of the entire book of Psalms.
Blessed is that man who did not walk in the wisdom of this world. Yeah. Blessed is that man who never faltered. Now, blessed is that man who set his heart on the teachings of the Lord. And blessed is that man who knew his Father. He's like a tree down by the living water. Strong and tall, he stands. He's evergreen, blooming on every branch. Blessed is that man. Yeah. Blessed are the ones who plant their feet on the path of righteousness. Blessed are the ones who've been forgiven. Oh, blessed are the ones who find that shade and lie down and get some rest. Oh, blessed are the ones who trust in Jesus. He's like a tree down by the living water. Strong and tall, he stands. He's evergreen, blooming on every branch. Blessed is that man. Oh, he is the vine, we are the branches. We will abide and we will grow. Oh, you sing. He is the vine, we are the branches. We will abide and we